that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is an Energy Week Extra. Guy Payne's here with us, and he's going to tell us about the Sustainable Energy Outreach Network, SEON, S-E-O-N, and the Sustainable Home Tour that is going to be happening on the 15th of October?
15th of October. Well, I think probably the first thing is to let people know exactly who is SEON. What is, it stands for the Sustainable Energy Outreach Network. And we've been flying sort of under the radar a little bit for about 4 years. It's hard to believe it's been 4 years.
Under some people's radar, but not under other people's
Not
radar.
under Energy Week.
Yeah. we, this is a name that I see fairly often. Go ahead.
Yeah. And, for those that are unfamiliar with SEON, what we are is a local concentrated network of businesses, educational institutions, and in private sector folks, all committed to either directly or indirectly related to the renewable energy and energy efficiency field. And all dedicated to certainly improving the economic sustainability of the area. Our particular focus in that has really evolved to the point where we see ourselves as being providers of educational resources to these businesses or individuals within schools. One way of characterizing SEON, Peter Yost said, it's sort of the chamber of commerce of renewable energy and energy efficiency. And it's like, oh, now I get it.
Yes. Yes.
That's who we are. But members of SEON are, as I said, they're either directly or indirectly related. So certainly we have what sort of in the trade is called high performance builders. These are builders who give concentration to energy efficiency, to indoor air quality, to durability, to renewables, and to source local materials as best as possible.
Right.
So that's really when we talk about high performance homes. We're trying to get away from green building because nobody really understands what that is. But those are what we mean by the high performance homes. So we have contractors, weatherization professionals, PV companies, architects are members of SEON, home suppliers, manufacturers. In this region,
you've got more than 2 or 3 members then.
We sure do. Really, most of all companies that are connected in one way or another to the renewables. We actually have a distribution company in Brooklyn, New York.
So you've got companies outside of southeastern Vermont.
Yep.
You've got, and SEON is not southeastern. It's even though I go there every time I think of it, it's sustainable.
Yeah. And the reason it's a distribution company, it's 475 High Performance Building Supply.
Okay.
And they are a distributor of a lot of German products.
Okay.
That many of our contractors in this region
Use, yes. And
so they are
Germans
strong.
are the people who developed the passive house
Yes.
standards and so forth. So they're very into that kind of thing.
Right.
And how many members do you have?
Oh, probably 60 members.
And these
We've been growing membership-wise, probably at a clip of about 40% a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one other and how we started was based on was a result of Hurricane Irene. When and to me this is a fascinating story. With Hurricane Irene, a lot of the contractors realized that their knowledge of building science, and building science, for those who don't know, it's really the physics of how air, heat, and moisture move through a building. And they did not have the background in building science, and especially with regard to water and vapor management. That was the realization for many of the contractors. And so we put together a course with Peter Yost of Building Green. I mean, he put together the course we...
I was going to say,
hosted.
Peter Yost is really an expert on this that I think...
We are blessed in having Building Green right here in Brattleboro.
Yeah,
And-
I was walking down the street the other day, and Peter Yost came the other way and said, "Hello, George." And I thought, he knows my name.
Well, yeah, I mean, so Peter, put together this course. We taught it 3 times here, 1 time down at Greenfield Community College, another time I worked with Vermont Technical College to run it up there. And our local contractor said this is the best course they had ever had.
Really?
But the problem is that, like in any training that you go to, when you're back on the job site and you have a problem and you're there saying, so what aspect of building science applies here? I don't really know.
Yes.
Or I'm guessing. So, it's the old thing, one day later you lose 80% of what you
Yes.
once knew. So as a result of that, builders got together, and now it's been running for 4 straight years. Architects, builders, energy consultants, manufacturers, higher ed faculty meet for 3 hours once a month, and they noodle on all issues of building science, or they listen to presentations or training sessions, or when I say presentations, it could be what are some new processes that are going on that people need to be introduced to. It's not a time for a seller of products to come and market their wares.
Right.
If they did, we would kick them out. So we would give them a really hard time. But these folks go deep. And people need to realize there's not another opportunity for them in their world of work to have these kinds of discussions.
Right.
They're competitors, but you wouldn't know it. It's playful, it's friendly, it's collaborative.
Yes.
And as a result of this, oftentimes contractors will say, I got this problem, and they'll email me the problem. We haven't gotten to the point of a blog.
Yes.
And I'll send it out to the group, and within two days, I may have 15 responses.
Now, the real trick
Now
here
that-
is, do they all say the same thing? Because
No,
if they
they're
know,
all-
you've got
Yeah.
a consensus.
Yeah.
I'll bet
Not
that-
always, because some of them, they've all come with different experiences.
Yes.
But for some, it's saved them considerable amount of money, and it's an incredible resource. You're working with a customer that said, I don't have an answer, but I have a network that I work with,
Yes.
and I'll have an answer to you in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And that's tremendous.
That's important.
So the idea of networking is really, and people say, well, we get together once a year to network. It's like, that's not networking. Here, it's advanced problem solving.
Can you give us
Here
an
it is-
example of what advanced problem solving means?
Well, I mean, I can't be specific. Like I can say there have been many occurrences where people are trying to figure out they've got some kind of water damage, and they can bring in the blueprints or the pictures, and then it's a matter of saying, where's it coming from
Aha.
and why?
Yes.
What's the, I've got this amount of livable space in an attic. What do I do about the insulation? So it's those kinds of issues where they can noodle for an hour and a half on one issue.
Right.
And so those are the, what I call advanced problem solving. Yeah. And there has been one project in which it really went for a couple of meetings where we sort of worked on that issue. And it was a relatively new home. So, but it's advanced problem solving, it's continuous quality improvement, which is a manufacturing term, but it's also as it pertains to building. So what we've done is we've facilitated this networking group. We now have another networking group of facility managers. And when you think of facility managers and the background where they come from in schools, some facility managers are teachers, school administrators, electricians, machinists, carpenters, and yet they come to a facility where you need to manage the integration of your thermal mechanical system, your distribution system, your sensors and monitors, and the envelope. That is a huge order for someone with those kinds of, with a background maybe in carpentry. And so so another piece that we have is the networking group of facility managers. And that has just started, and we'll probably add a third. We'd like to see if we can get real estate agents, appraisers, those sort of complementary professions meeting together. Because for appraisers, there are not many comparables out there. And it's a real challenge in the industry for homeowners who have made a commitment to high-performance building and then have their home appraised appropriately.
Right.
So SEON is this umbrella organization that not just provides networking opportunities for the practitioners and professionals in the field, but we also deliver training programs as well. And we're looking to become a center of professional development for the southeastern Vermont region. So, so that's one aspect in terms of our work with the businesses and educational institutions. Another aspect is our work with the community, the consumers. So we've put, and you've been to, and I think both Tom and you have been to some of the open forums, either on Germany's transition or Europe's transition to fossil-free economy, to biomass, to cold climate heat pumps, to solar programs. And what I'm here today is to talk about a different way in which we're reaching out to the public, and that's the Sustainable Home Tour that we're putting on.
So the Sustainable Home Tour is going to give people the opportunity to see what the sustainable homes look like and talk with the owners and talk with the people who did the contracting in
Yes.
the homes.
We've identified, and we solicited an RFP to contractors to say, send us your examples. So we got 7 homes from Guilford up to Saxons River. 4 of them are new homes. 4 of them are new, 2 of them are deep energy retrofits,
Okay.
and the third is an addition.
Oh, okay.
So we were looking at maybe someone that's staging kinds of improvements, but we didn't get any of those. And the homes are in Guilford, Brattleboro, West Brattleboro, West Dummerston, rather, 2 in Putney and 2 in Saxons River. And really, it's to give people the opportunity to touch, feel, ask questions, as you were saying.
Yeah.
So what do we mean by high performance? And coming back to that high performance, meaning energy efficiency, durability, indoor air quality, renewables, locally sourced material.
So this is an all-day tour.
4 to 10, no, 10 to 4.
10 to 4, yeah.
Yeah, so, and it's a self-guided tour.
Oh, okay, you're not going to be leading it.
No.
Okay, good.
So the
all
public
right.
can just, they can go to 2 homes, they could go to as many as they'd like.
They can
On a
go to all
beautiful-
7
or
and
they
then go
can
back to
all
them
7.
again.
On a beautiful, hopefully, fall, late morning, afternoon.
And the owners are going to be there to answer questions.
Most of the owners will. I think some might have already had commitments, but there will always be there one of the contractors who was involved. So ask any question, and so it's an opportunity. Maybe some real energy geeks that will have all those kinds of technical questions, but it's also for someone who says, I now have the opportunity to ask everything I want to know about high performance, but was afraid to
Right.
ask.
And some people are very, they get very defensive about costs of things, how much money they spent on things. Are these people going to be prepared to talk about that?
We've asked them to do that, and there are a lot of folks that will say, so what's the payback?
Right.
And there are a couple ways of answering that. There's also another way of saying, so what's your cash flow been like? And
Right.
for many people, it's been a savings.
Yes.
But it's still, have we gotten to the point where the average person can probably do it? We're moving in that direction, but it's still a challenge.
Well, I've had a series of interviews with architects and people in building and so forth. And one of the things that an architect told me was, if you're building a new house, you can get 90% of the way to having a passive house, and that'll cut your energy bill by 90% at the same price as a conventional construction. So for paying nothing extra, you can get 90% off on energy.
Right.
And I ran that by contractors, and they said, oh yeah, you can do that. The thing is, you need to have contractors who know how to do it.
There's the key. There's the key. And, I think the important thing, at least for what SEON does, is everyone who's a member of SEON are high performance builders.
They know how to do
They
it.
know how to do
And
it.
it sounds like SEON is very interested in helping somebody who doesn't know how to do it become a high performance contractor.
Yeah.
So this is something that is not a situation where you're excluding
exclusive club.
Yeah, where you're excluding
No.
competitors. You're inviting competitors to join, and people can get involved. And the savings that are involved, when you can cut your energy bill in Vermont by 90% for the same price as conventional construction. And I mentioned that to a woman who was standing in line with me at the food store, and she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You pay the same amount for the house, your mortgage is the same, but your energy bill goes down 90%. And she looked like she was about to cry because she had just bought a new house.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is the kind of tour in which we need to have out to realtors.
yes,
So, there are some
appraisers,
appraisers. Yes.
really appraisers.
Yeah. But, when you go to the home, there will be a booklet. And, Tom, if you want to scroll, or George,
I
if
will
you
do
can
it, yeah.
scroll.
I will try to do it.
And, so you can just see what we have on our website, and that is seon.info/home
Home tour.
That's just a little description of the homes themselves. But when you go to their homes, you'll get a booklet that will describe, one, the narrative of why they got started, but then what have been the features in terms of the building envelope, as well as the mechanical systems that are part of the renovation or the new construction.
So-
You'll have an opportunity to say, oh, most homeowners are not going to ask, so what's the R value of the wall in this house?
Yes.
But you'll see it here.
Yes.
You'll see an R value of 40, or ceilings of 60, or, all of that. And granted, it's a terminology, it's a whole new language.
Yes. And
but-
people are doing things in these homes that our ancestors never dreamed of.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you insulate the floor of your basement?
Sure.
People are having the floors of their basements insulated, and my experience was the floor of the basement, it's made of dirt. What would you do with that?
Well, for many people who are interested, how do I get started?
Yes.
They really need to have and spend some time with an expert who can help you prioritize just where's the biggest bang for your bucks at the beginning.
Right.
And for a lot of people, it's that wet basement.
Yes. Yes, but it's going to vary enormously from one person to the next.
Oh,
You can't just go in and say, we're going to have a course in how to do this, and this is where you start.
No.
It's not true in all cases.
No.
You have to consider the house itself, and to a certain extent, the way people live.
Yeah. And that, you're leading to a point that maybe a lot of folks don't recognize, is that the house is a system.
Right.
And it's the relationships of energy efficiency, the durability, and the renewables. And now these things are coming together. So you need to think of what's going on in the house, not as isolated silos,
Right.
but it's the integration of all of these different, if you want to call them, energy systems. And that's why, like members of SEON think that way. And I think, frankly, with the development of now it's called the Ecovation. I'm not sure if you've heard of that.
Equivation?
Ecovation.
Ecovation, okay, yes.
That has been the whole effort by Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation and SEBIDS to begin looking at the green building products and services field as a major economic development objective.
Okay.
And so there are a number of working groups developing that. But one of the keys that was identified in this initiative is the realization that as a region, many of the thought leaders and practitioners think systemically.
Right.
And so that's very unique about what's going on here. Coming back to the home tour, I think you'll have the opportunity to, one, get the booklet
Yes.
with the description, and we're going to have a glossary.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, oh, so
That's what that means.
So that's what that means, right? What is our value, and what is that? So what is hers? What is that?
Yeah,
hers?
what is hers?
What is a hers rating?
Yeah.
So all of that will be described in the booklet. There will be an ambassador, if you will, from SEON who will be,
Right.
and yes, this is a self-guided tour, but it is also a fundraiser for SEON. So there is a cost. Advanced tickets are $12 or 2 for $20. You can get them online, or you can get them in Brattleboro at Friends of the Sun, or Everyone's Books.
But you need tickets to go to the...
Or you can show up on that day.
You can show up, and
Yeah.
what happens to you if that happens?
You
They
have to
pick
pay
your
a little
pocket.
bit more. You
So
pay
they
a
don't
little
say
bit
go
more.
away.
So at the door, it's 15
Okay.
a person, or
But they
two
don't
for
run you out
20.
of town on a rail. They
No.
invite you in and say, sorry, but you have to pay $3 extra.
Yeah, and you can go online to find out the address of
Right.
where these are, and we will have road signs sort of out in competition with all the PR of representatives and all the elections. So our road sign will be in competition with all of those. But what's fascinating about the homes is that one of them, which is new, started out as going to be an addition to a home, and then it morphed into a brand new building for a single person. So you'll have the chance to see that modest home. These are not your Montana mega-rich 4,000 square foot homes.
Well, I think this is important for people to understand,
this is to
too.
Yeah, so we really looked at, what are Vermonters doing? What are the
Right.
homes that they live in, that they aspire to, that they can do work on?
Right.
And so we have that home there. Another home in West Dummerston is one of Unity Homes. I'm not sure if you're familiar
No.
with
We
it.
actually had people from Unity Homes on the show here. This is Bensonwood.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
the low-cost homes from Bensonwood.
Okay, I remember
We
that
had
now.
two
Yeah.
engineers here from Bensonwood, and they talked about Unity Homes, and they showed us some of the stuff that they were doing for building, and some of it is just amazing.
Can you scroll?
Can I scroll?
Yeah, I'll
Let
show
me
you
get it
that.
up
I'll
there.
show you. I think it's called the Xyla model.
I thought that was the last one.
Keep going.
I think it's the last one. I think I
There.
recognize. Which? That?
Right there.
Which one?
The top one.
That? Okay.
That's a Unity home.
That's a Unity
And
home.
what's fascinating, they're prefabricated panels.
Yes. Which
that-
sounds like it's a cheap and not very good construction until you look at what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
And then you discover this is really, really superior construction. This
Yeah.
is serious stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the things about this is that home was built in a factory in pieces. So it was built under controlled atmospheric conditions.
Right.
And the pieces will fit together perfectly. And perfectly means perfectly. You know, we're
Yeah.
getting to a point here where the tolerances are so small that a normal carpenter can say, you could do that? And they do it. And that means no air leakage. It also means a bunch of other things, which include an approach to construction that builds a home that should last a few hundred years anyway. This is not.
You're looking for homes for 300 years
Yeah.
plus.
And you know, this is their technology is just plain awesome. It's astonishing. I know that there are other people out there who have other approaches which may in fact be as good, but you can get it all from there. And Benson, who founded Bensonwood, has developed the business plan, a lot of the technology, and he's very happy to share it all with everybody, which is a very refreshing approach to doing business.
Open source.
Open source, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the great thought leaders in the area. You know,
Yeah, and has been for quite a while.
Yeah. You know, so when you think of the thousands of pieces that on-site building has to put together, and these come now packaged in panels, and the bathrooms
Are installed.
are dropped down like a pod.
Yeah, they're all integrated. It's
Yeah.
dropped in place.
Yeah.
The electrical connections are all taken care of. The whole thing is basically just prepare the site, bring in the tractor trailers, put it up. It takes a few days, and it's done. Which means that if you can organize it well enough to do it during a time when there's no rain coming down, and that's not that hard because it doesn't take all that long.
Yeah.
You've got a new house that's never seen rain, and you know there's the effect of let me put it this way, it's well planned.
Yeah, and I think what's an important thing to also say is, and it reflects the kind of relationship that SEON has with many of these, with something like Unity Homes, who is a member of SEON.
Yes.
They're having their own home tour of all their models the same day.
Oh, really? Well, that's valuable because this is Unity Homes is having a tour of its models.
Yeah.
Because they have a number of models. And another thing here, too, that really should be explained.
And this is one of the ones on their tour.
On their tour. When we talk about their models, if you look at pictures of two homes of the same model, you could look at them and scratch your head and say, what? They're the same model? They don't look alike at all. They don't look alike necessarily. They come out of the factory and the underlying construction is the same, the underlying design is the same, it was done by the same architect, same engineer, same piece of paper, but the details of how this is put together are so variable that you can choose this and that, and you can say, no, I want a trellis here. I don't want a trellis here. I want a porch here. I don't want a porch here. I want to, change this design in this respect or that respect, and you can come up with very different buildings as a result.
Yeah.
You could put them side by side and people would not realize that they were the same.
It's
in many
almost
cases.
coming to the point where why build one from scratch?
Yes, and I think that's a really good point. And the people from Bensonwood show you pictures of award-winning homes, under construction, and there's lumber all over the place. And the lumber is lying on the ground, and there's little pieces and big pieces, and and some of it is going to get used and some of it won't. And you don't see that at their sites. They bring in the
Done already.
equipment. They bring in the modules. They put it in. It goes up, and it's an extremely rapid development.
So you're talking about a house within a week?
Probably, yeah.
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 Yeah, I don't know what, I think they said maybe 3 months when it was from start to finish.
Well, starting
started
with
with the
It's all
design.
happening in the
design.
factory.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, on site,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're talking a week or less.
It may be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, it works for certain folks, you know, in certain locations and, you know, what the needs are, but, you know, a part of this tour is to you know, to let people see the array of what is possible.
Right.
Out there.
One thing that I'd like to mention about Bensonwood is a big organization that has very expensive houses coming out of it, which are custom made
Right.
to order, and you can go in and their architects will design you a $5 million home. If you want a $5 million home, they'll do it. Unity Homes is their lower priced division, which has architects who design homes that are intended to be less expensive, basically as well built, but they're less expensive, and the designs are used again to make other houses that are very highly distinguishable, but
yeah.
they're actually at more modest prices.
Right. So I wanted to take you to another, and I may be below this one, George.
Okay, let's see if I can get there. There are some interesting.
No, okay, keep going there.
Okay.
All right. Now this is unique. This is what's known as the Vermod house, VERMOD.
Right.
And again, here was an outcome from Hurricane Irene,
Right.
where so many of the mobile homes were destroyed, and thought, are we just replacing more mobile homes, or can we do something different? And so Efficiency Vermont teamed up, I think, with USDA, and that mobile home, or the Vermont homes, might look by footprint to be the equivalent of a mobile home, but there's nothing else about the construction about it that equates to what is typically thought of as a mobile home. It's really for some lower income folks, but it is a net zero building.
A low income net zero building. How about
Now,
that?
isn't that great? So, or the potential to be net zero, because you may put it in a, you know, where you may have to link in with a community solar.
They call it net zero ready.
Yeah.
And what that means is that I don't know what additional input would be needed on that home. Very likely it could be done with solar panels on the roof.
Yeah. I mean, if it's in a location where the trees and all, you know, that's not going to work. But it's construction, all high performance. It's built up in Wilder, in a facility up there.
Right.
So energy efficient appliances, the insulation, the air leak. I mean, everything has been done to make this, you know, is I'm glad you said net zero ready.
This particular home, it says in the caption here, has a 6 kilowatt PV array, and I would guess, you know, based on the other stuff that I'm seeing here, that would probably provide all of its energy right there.
Oh,
maybe
sure.
maybe extra.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a cold climate heat pump.
Right.
It would be their ventilation system is set up so that it can
Right.
take care of that.
And an efficient refrigerator, and things have got to a point with high efficiency construction that just the fact that you're in a building giving off heat, and so is your dog, and so do a little cooking, and that's all the heat you need, really. I talked to one architect who had an apartment building, and the apartment building was entirely heated, in addition to those sources, with floor mats in the bathrooms that were resistance heaters. That was the heating source.
Yeah.
But of course, it was an apartment building with an extensive solar array on the roof, and
Well, if you can save all that heat, you don't need much.
it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And it's interesting you're talking about Peter Yost, and he asked his brother, who's a physician, how much water vapor is produced by a person over the night.
Yes? A lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Do you remember how much?
No.
I'll bet it's between a quart and 2 quarts.
I don't know if it's, well, I don't know, but I mean, you're unaware of these
Right.
coming in. You're talking about being heated by folks. You're also
producing heat.
Producing
That's
heat.
right.
You're also
Yeah.
producing water vapor.
Yes.
And, you know,
And if you weigh yourself on a good accurate scale before you go to bed, and then when you get up
Oh,
in the
yeah.
morning, you're going to have a difference. Unless you went to the bathroom, you're going to have a difference that tells you. And
Oh, yeah.
you could lose a
Pound,
couple
pound,
pounds.
yeah. So if we could scroll up.
Okay.
Let me get it up on the screen here.
There,
That one.
that one there.
Okay.
Now that is a new home in Putney.
Okay.
A
I might be able to make that bigger. See if I can do that.
I bet you can. Looks like you're doing it.
yeah.
There we go. I should have thought of that before.
So that's a new home in Putney of a different level, but it is a net zero. Bill McClay is one of Vermont's sort of foremost architects.
Right. I just interviewed him for
and-
Green Energy Times.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
And his book, The New Net Zero Leading Edge in Construction of Homes and Buildings for Renewable Energy Future. I'm just reading it off there.
Okay.
That home is featured in his book.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, I think that may even be the picture. But it's an award-winning home of the, I think, Vermont Green Building Network, or Green
Okay.
Council. So there's an award-winning building. So that is also on the tour, and that's in Putney. Scroll down, George.
Yeah.
This is great having, there,
That one?
that one there.
Okay.
Now, the next two are actually right in Saxons River.
Yeah, that's factory built?
No,
Oh, sure as heck doesn't look like it.
that's on the Vermont Historic Registry.
So this is
Oh, this is an old home.
this
is
is
an
a
old home?
this is a historic net zero house.
Not quite net zero.
Not quite net zero.
There's a wonderful phrase, I don't think it's been trademarked. It's called a pretty good house. And, for some people, getting to that net zero level when you're doing a deep energy just isn't worth it.
Yes.
That last 20% or 10%, you're probably not going to recoup.
But if you can get that first 80 or 90%,
Absolutely.
that makes a huge difference.
That it does. And so the idea of a pretty good house is sort of a fun way of describing it. This home is right in Saxons River and was deep energy retrofit, and its intention, it's a small cape on the historic registry in Saxons River. The owner, Teresa Spear, wanted to do all this work so she could qualify for LEED designation. And, for those, LEED is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And she's close to accomplishing that. Her work has been done. There's still some additional work that needs to be done. But it also costs you money to have it registered.
Yes.
So-
LEED, it's
so-
not an easy thing to do. And
No.
I've talked to a number of people who have said we wanted to do this to LEED standards, but they weren't willing to pay for it, and so they just accepted the fact that they didn't have the diploma, but they had the
Right.
education.
So it met all the standards, but you don't have the
Yeah.
brass plaque.
And it's very much like organic farming. There are a lot of people in organic farming who can't afford to be organic farmers, but they do the practice.
Yeah. And Teresa, all the work was done with no VOCs, no countertops came from a crushed glass company. I'm not sure.
Crushed glass?
Yeah.
Countertop? Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
she really made a commitment. Part of LEED.
Everything is recycled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff recycled, but she made a major commitment because it's part of the LEED metrics, that material needs to be sourced within a 50-mile radius or something like that?
My recollection
is
is that it depends upon the material, because I've seen lead buildings that had things sourced from very far away. One building in particular that I remember, the building was in Massachusetts, but some of the lumber came from Canada.
Okay.
But there's got to be a reason for that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the reason, but I do remember that it made a lot of sense when it was explained. The only way that you could get lumber with the particular characteristics that they wanted,
Which makes sense. Yeah.
was to get it from a distance. And I think it was because the lumber had to be, it was being used as exterior on the exterior of the building as siding, and they wanted to have particular wood characteristics that would stand up to weather, and you couldn't do that with species available commonly in Massachusetts.
So there you'll see an individual who went through a deep energy retrofit, very cost conscious as to what she did. And then the last one,
Is it on here?
yeah, it's right below Teresa's house. This is her neighbor.
Okay.
And that section of the home on the right is the addition. This is simply an addition to a home. It was a single-story ranch, and that has been done. And so it gives people an opportunity who wanted to see what an addition and the specifications that the builder did for that. That's available, and the nice thing, seeing an addition right next to Teresa's house for literally neighbors.
Yeah. So you can go on the tour and you can walk from one to the other.
There, yeah.
There you go.
So, part of it is certainly the opportunity to expose the public to what is really possible. And, to take some of the mystery as well as the myths that can be out there. Everyone goes, oh no, I can't afford it. Well,
This is the first myth. It really is. It's distressing to see how much people go back to the I can't afford it, because if you can afford to pay your electric bill, you can afford to do the work that you need to reduce your energy
And I
use.
think, the lenders are getting to a point where
They understand.
They understand that, and they're trying to come up with, portfolio of products that could be beneficial.
Right.
So, it's important that people spend the time with knowledgeable folks.
Right.
To learn what is possible, and then you can go and see about the different financing needs. But it's also an opportunity for SEON
Right.
to promote who our builders are.
Right.
We are blessed in this area with great talent and a thirst to do what is right. It doesn't mean they're going to bully someone into saying this is what you need to do. I mean, they have enough skill and people skills to work with individuals to design and construct according to what their needs are.
For a house or a deep energy retrofit.
Exactly.
And
so we're really trying to showcase these are some of the builders that are out
Right.
there.
There are people, this is something that I just to put this all into a kind of a more solid form, there are people in Windham County, in Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, but there are people around who really understand this stuff well. We've got national experts in this area who are very well respected, and there are contractors who know how to do the work. And if you go and look and you find a person who understands this, and you say, I've got a house that was, like I could describe the house I used to live in New Hampshire. That was a net zero house when my grandmother bought it. It wasn't hooked to the grid at all. It used firewood that came from the property, But you can say, I've got this old farmhouse that has no insulation. It uses 6 cords of wood a year or whatever. And I want to make it into something that is affordable and energy efficient. And you've got people who could say, okay, you can't go 100% of the way doing to no energy use. But you can go 100% of the way to net zero, because if you go 90% or 80% of the way to no energy use, that's affordable. That will save you all the money that it'll cost to do the work. And then, if you supply yourself with your own energy from solar or something like that, you can make up that difference. And you can be net zero in an old building if you've got people who know how to do that. And they've got to know air sealing, and they've got to know window construction and door construction and insulation and so forth. And you've got to have the solar. But the interesting thing about this is there are people out there who know how to loan you the money. And you know, in Vermont, we've got so many choices here. VSECU has had loans out there for people who had very little money at 0% interest. And
How do they make money at that?
They don't. And I don't know, excuse me, I don't know how whether that program is still going, but I can tell you that their interest rates for this kind of construction are so low that you can save money by saving energy and be more comfortable. Your comfort increases.
Yeah. What's interesting on the tour and on the sponsors, we have 3 lending institutions who are sponsors of the tour.
How about that? Who are they?
The SECU,
Right.
Brattleboro Savings and Loan,
Okay.
Walpole.
There you go. There you go.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does. And by the way, VSECU, Vermont State Employees Credit Union, is open to state employees in Vermont, but it's also open to anybody who works in Vermont, anybody who lives in Vermont.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Something that you touched on, George, that I do want to come back to, because you were saying SEON is not this inclusive club
yeah.
for builders. What we are hoping to, and folks, some of the builders have been working for the past year in developing what's known as a credential program called a High Performance Builder. That is a combination of pre-employment training that would include power equipment. You know, these are for entry-level people who've had no experience at all. Plus 2 module programs to at least get them to the point where they can be hired. Following the hire will be additional training courses, as well as apprenticeship type work processes that they need to master. And so at the end of all the coursework, sort of post-employment training plus the work processes, which is a phrase from apprenticeships. But we're not yet going through the Vermont Apprenticeship Council. But we will identify what those steps are. And that's the skill, that's the on-the-job training stuff. So for even those who are incumbent workers, they may not need the pre-employment training, but there will be post-employment training. So we're going to be offering ongoing classes to area practitioners so they come up to speed with all that we're talking about in terms of the building science.
Right.
So you're trying to create a cadre of usable people for the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We are up against a situation where conventional builders, a lot of them say, my grandfather did this. This is the way it's done.
Yeah.
And people who say, if you try to do it that way, the building isn't going to last because of problems with water vapor and things like that, which is true if you try to do it that way and you don't do it without any knowledge. But you know, this is why, again, Peter Yost has got this background in how water vapor behaves in buildings, and you have to be up on that, or you can run into trouble.
Right.
So you do need the education, but we also have to. We as a society, I think we have to lose touch with this idea that we should be working with manual typewriters and buggy whips and old building techniques. The old building techniques worked perfectly when you didn't mind that the kitchen was 32 degrees in the morning and you had a wood cook range and kerosene lights. You know, that was what was available.
10 years ago, I was talking to some folks who were educators, and I realized we're coming down to 3. And they said, oh, building a house, well, if you learn to build a shed, it's the same concepts. Oh, this is where this industry is. It's like, no.
It's a very different thing. Don't worry about the time yet, by the way, because we,
It will be expanded or compressed to fit the time
well,
allotted.
we actually have about 10 minutes. That's what I'm seeing. We started at about 10 after.
So anyway, that's that's the home tour,
tour.
and it's our first
Home tour.
annual home tour. We actually got the idea from NESE, which is the Northeast Sustainable Energy
Yes.
Association, who years ago had this kind of home tour throughout the Northeast.
Right.
And, people would, and actually Teresa Spear, who has this one house on the tour, she visited all these
All
over
of
the
them?
year. Not all of them, but
Okay.
she would go out one year after another to visit these homes to learn everything she needed to know. So when she was in a position of doing the retrofit, she would. NESE suspended that initiative. They now do what's known as a pro tour, which is a tour of high performance buildings, but really for the professionals and for the practitioners.
Right.
So it's not that they no longer have something open to the public.
But this is open to the public.
This is open to the public, and that's really who, it's not just the general public. We want realtors going, we want those appraisers going, we want salespeople at home centers and hardware stores going.
Right.
Because they don't know this stuff.
You want bankers going.
And
You
we
want
want bankers.
contractors going who are wondering what their competition is doing.
That's
You
right.
want- this is an
This
interesting
is-
approach.
Yeah.
But
this
it's
is-
it's refreshing to see that kind of business being done. So the tour is in the Brattleboro area from Guilford to
Saxon's River.
Saxons River from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You go online to get your advance tickets that are cheaper. You can pick up the tickets at any one of these 7 houses.
Well, you can go to those 7 houses, pay, and then you'll get a wristband that will allow you to get into.
That's
all
a
the
little
other-
bit more expensive than doing it online,
Yes.
but you're probably not going to notice that. In fact, you could pay for it, it sounds like, with a cup of coffee or two.
Yeah. Yes.
And you get a lot of free advice from people who have done the work, both contractors and homeowners,
Right.
who have had the experience. This is something that anybody who wants to upgrade a house, anybody who wants to build a house, anybody who wants to buy a house, because if you're going to buy a house, you're going to have to pay the bill one way or the other, and you might wind up upgrading it
Yeah.
too.
So you'll know the questions to ask.
Yeah.
Over and above,
and it's-
what kind of faucets do you have?
Yeah, right. And it's very important that you understand the questions to ask, because you've got to know that your contractor knows how to do this. I interviewed somebody for Green Energy Times, and we were talking about the skills people had to learn. And the guy was saying, well, one skill that they have to learn is how to use tape for sealing. They have to learn how to use tape. And they
Oh, I
have
thought, for a moment, I thought you were talking about a tape measure. I
No,
was gonna go.
they have to learn how to install with the tape, and they have to learn. This is not a matter of you use tape and so they use tape. This is a matter of having the eye that it takes to look at something and say that particular kind of location is going to require some tape on it for air sealing.
Right.
And the pictures that I've seen of stairs where every joint was taped on the
Wow.
stairs.
Well, that makes sense, really.
It does, but if you don't think about it, you don't do it.
No, who would think of that?
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who watches this show is going to think about it from now on.
That's great. But, yeah, and, I was talking to you about the work processes as part of the training program.
Right.
Well, taping ceilings would be one of those steps.
One of those steps, and it's as I said, every joint, every place you can have a crack. Crack doesn't have to be there yet.
Oh, it doesn't have to be big either.
No, it doesn't have to be big. And I think about when I was a student. I went to school at Pratt Institute, and the dormitory was a 16-story, 17-story apartment building, and I was on the 7th floor. And one of the windows, and of course this is all single pane windows, one of the windows had a tiny crack in the corner. It was only about 3/4 of an inch long in the very corner of the window. And you could not detect any way that air could get through there. But by the, you know, as the time went by, I saw a fan-shaped area of dark.
Cobwebs?
No, it wasn't cobwebs. It was like soot that was blowing into the window. That was settling next to that little tiny crack because it was bringing in that pollution, which was hitting still air and just dropping. And that tiny crack, you know, tells you a crack in the glass, two pieces of glass that are fitting perfectly together, and the air blows between them. How do you figure that? You just have to have the attitude that says, if there's a joint there, I have to put tape on it. I have to, if two pieces of wood are coming together, there has to be the appropriate foam in the appropriate place. The panels, you know, have to be put together properly. You have to avoid thermal bridges. So you have indoor studs and outdoor studs, or interior studs and exterior studs. And it's not the shed anymore.
No, it's not.
It's a different building.
But you know, when you have people who are familiar and understand this stuff, they can also spot when a subcontractor isn't doing the right work.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, you got a lot of other subs that will come in, whether they're, you know, and I don't want to necessarily identify any one profession, but, you know, some put holes in the wall and not think of what the consequence is going to be.
They need an education.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that the Department of Labor has identified 53 job classifications that now require advanced learning in building science.
Wow.
53.
Wow.
Well, one of the things we're talking about here is this is all about education.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
That's what it's.
And that's why SEON has sort of taken this route.
Right.
That we're not a project management organization, you know, in the terms of, you know, major installations or anything.
And
our focus is providing educational resources.
You're also not going after huge amounts of money. You're not a money-grubbing organization. You want money, but I'm sure, but you're not a. Are you a nonprofit?
We are a 501c3.
Nonprofit. So you're not a money-making organization.
No, we're not.
And you're not an exclusive organization. You're not like the labor unions that say you've got to learn how to operate a linotype machine before you're allowed to operate a linotype machine.
No.
Unless, of course, you're the son of a linotype machine operator.
Yeah, I mean, anyone is allowed, you know, to come to our monthly Building Science Guild meetings. So it's not restricted. You'll be blown away by, whoa, this is the kind of conversation that goes on.
And that could save a potential home buyer or home builder a lot of money.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're at the end of our time. So maybe we should sign off. Have you got any final words? You don't have to have any.
You've given me plenty of time, so this is great.
Okay, good. Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you'll be back, Guy Payne, SEON, and doing a service to the whole world by fixing building practices in New England.
Building by building.
Building by building.
Strong as it will.